When the American colonies declared independence in 1776, the idea of one day invading Britain may have sounded like poetic justice, a reversal of roles where the former colony would strike back at its old master. Yet despite the bitterness of the Revolutionary War, America never attempted an invasion of Britain. There were many strong reasons for this, both practical and political, that made such an idea almost impossible. The American War of Independence was not just a war of conquest, but one of survival. The colonists didn't seek to destroy the British Empire, they simply wanted to leave it. George Washington and the Continental Congress focused on defending the colonies from British attacks, not launching offensives across the Atlantic. From the very start, America's entire strategy relied on endurance, outlasting the British, until they simply gave up. The colonies had no standing navy, little professional army, and almost no money to finance an overseas expedition. The early Continental Army was made up of local militias and volunteers who were fighting to protect their homes, not to invade another country thousands of miles away. Even if the young United States had wanted to take the fight to Britain, the idea was completely unrealistic. America's early warships were tiny compared to the Royal Navy, which was the most powerful maritime force on Earth. Simply crossing the Atlantic was a logistical nightmare. Transporting thousands of men, supplies, food, and ammunition over 3,000 miles of ocean was, well, beyond the capacity of the new nation. During the 18th century, Britain's navy ruled the seas. By the 1770s, it had hundreds of ships of the line, frigates, and smaller vessels patrolling the world's oceans. America's navy? Well, by contrast, that barely existed. The few American ships that did exist focused mostly on privateering, attacking British merchant vessels and disrupting trade, rather than trying to take on the Royal Navy directly. These hit-and-run tactics were far cheaper and also far more practical. Even France, which joined the war in 1778, had one of the largest fleets in the world, and that never attempted to invade Britain directly. It was a dangerous and costly gamble that rarely succeeded. Napoleon would try the same thing in the early 19th century and fail spectacularly. For the Americans, an invasion was out of the question. When France entered the war, it gave the Americans a huge boost. Money, supplies, ships, and most importantly, troops, and most importantly, ships. The French fleet was crucial in trapping British forces at Yorktown in 1781, effectively ending the war. However, France's involvement was limited to North America and the Caribbean. The French had no interest in helping the Americans invade Britain. Their goal was to weaken their old rival and restore France's own power after the humiliations of the 7 Years' War. The French Navy fought British ships across the globe, but not near the British Isles. Without a major European ally willing to launch a full-scale invasion of England or Britain, the Americans, well, they simply couldn't attempt such a thing. Another reason America never invaded Britain was political. The American Revolution wasn't about conquest, it was about freedom and self-determination. Invading Britain would have gone against everything that the Revolution stood for. The Founding Fathers wanted to build a new republic based on liberty, not empire. Once independence was secured by the Treaty of Paris in 1783, the focus shifted to nation building, not revenge. The young United States had to create a government, stabilise its economy, and defend its own borders from internal and external threats. In other words, invading Britain would have been a distraction from the monumental task of forming a new nation. America never invaded Britain because, well, it didn't need to. The goal of the war was independence, not domination. The revolutionaries fought to drive British forces out of their lands, not to plant their own flag on British soil. Even if they wanted to, the vast ocean, the Royal Navy, and sheer logistical impossibility made such an invasion unthinkable. In the end, the United States won the war, not by conquering Britain, but by convincing Britain that the cost of keeping the colonies was far too high. The victory came through patience, alliances and persistence, not invasion. And that, in many ways, was the most important American outcome of them all. This has been History of the World. Thank you so much for watching. If you've learned something new, click subscribe.